Hello students, welcome to Turito live classes. Myself is Swagat. Today we are going to understand about a specific topic for class 10th. So as this is the introductory class for the topic of life process. So we'll begin here. Let us see here. So today we are going to having an understanding about what are life processes. So before doing that, I would like to know from you, what is your understanding about life process? Whatever you can drop in the chat box, I would like to read that and we'll proceed further. Okay, so I see that you are dropping all the activities what we are doing regularly. Okay, fine. So I'll be reading them out once the learning objectives are done. So let's look here, starting with this. So in this particular session, we are going to look at the topics of life process as a whole. What is that? So what is life process and what are its significance? So we will be looking into that, and done. It is as a whole what we are going to do, but whatever you have dropped in the chat box, if you would like to verify yourself, observe the screen carefully. So first thing you see here, movement, okay, within the same place or by displacing, that is moving from place to place, is called movement. Okay, we see reproduction, that is important aspect of continuity of life on any organism, continuity of life of any organism. So if any organism has to continue its life, so it needs this process of reproduction. Sensitivity, response to stimuli. So this is a very famous thing what we learn for the first time probably in class 5th or class 6th. I am not sure how you remember. You really remember that? Okay, no. Okay, I see no, and one or two yeses. Okay, fine. So you remember it vaguely that this is something to do with the sensitivity, how the organism is able to sense its surroundings. Maybe it is trying to sense some other organism, it is trying to sense the physical factors including light, temperature, and the presence of the water, soil, air. All of those are to be understood by the organism. Then we will be looking into growth as one of the life process which continues to act of change. It's an act which is continuously occurring in an organism. Now when you see a person growing, after some point of time you see the person's height would be stopped, no further growth is seen, but internally the growth is continuing, which means when we are playing outside and you see that if we fall down we get to have scratches. So that is something also understood about growth. So it heals, it takes time to heal, so that is also to be considered as growth. Aging process is a result of growth, so that's what is growth all about. Then respiration is one of the vital process of life process what we do required for generation of energy. So if one is having the energy to do the works, it is because of the respiration process which helps in generation of energy. Then excretion also. So you see here, it's quite simple to understand when we try to look at the word excretion, that is removal of toxic and non-toxic components from the body. So not necessary whatever is removed out is toxic. It is waste, but it may not be toxic always. Okay, so that depends. So that is also done here. So if you observe, these are the life process what we are going to learn, and followed by one of the important one, that is nutrition, where fulfilling the nutrient need for the body. So nutrient need, when we are trying to consume food, okay, that's an important need for any organism. Okay, so we have been learning that because of food we get to have energy, that's how we get, that's what we have learned. So it is a combination of nutrition and respiration together actually gives us energy, but the respiration, the actual chemical reaction which occurs, hope you know, that is the one which gives us energy. Okay, so these are the learning objectives for today's session. We will be looking into each of them one by one. So let's begin here. It's a big slide you're seeing here, it's blank. I want to show you some of the organisms here on the screen, and you are supposed to just drop in your responses in the chat box, what is that you see common in these given organisms. So, you see it is a cactus, that is a sea jelly, it is a snail, it is a scorpion, it is a crocodile, and you see a sunflower, and you see okay, it is a seagrass, and then you see a pangolin, it is a cheetah, and that is a centipede. So many of them. I gave here about all several types of animals, and we see plants also. There are 3 related to plants. Okay. So what I am trying to show you is, consider this as a not about oil I am speaking about. Let us think this is a plant itself. So think that way. So this is a seagrass, and that's a cactus. Okay. What is that common among all of these? They all are different, I know, I understand, they are looking different, they are different actually, but still there lies a common feature. So what is that, can you make out by looking at them? Think over it. Okay, I see some of the responses here, that is good, but I want you to take our learning objectives as a clue and respond accordingly. Okay. Okay, just let's listen to me. Okay, I see good responses. So there are so many organisms given here. It's quite simple to understand. So you see, oh sorry, that's a tadpole. I said crocodile, right? That's a tadpole you're looking here. Okay. Okay, and this is a pangolin. Okay, that's a centipede. So what I'm trying to tell you is, they all are living organisms. Okay, when they do their regular activities, okay, they all have a single thing which is common, is the life processes what they have to perform. Leave about how they perform their various life processes, but the common thing what we have already gone through, that if you observe here, is these. Okay. So when you see here, I am trying to show you they all are living organisms and they perform their life processes. Okay, and that is quite common here to understand what are life processes. So you are giving me the examples of the life process, probably you have the understanding of life process, but whenever we understand few words, but we often fail to explain them, what is that exactly. So that's a problem come always. You see here, whenever we are doing any work, or even if we are sitting ideally, our body has to function, it has to be maintained continuously, right? So there is nothing like, is there anything like, when you don't do work, when you are sitting idle, or when you are just lying on the bed, or you are sleeping on the bed, let us say, does our organ stop working? What do you think? Certainly not. Yes, I see the responses that way. So certainly not, the organs are still functioning. So that is something to understand here, children. We have a thought here, there is a question. Even though we are sitting idle doing nothing, even though we are lying on the bed, or we are sleeping on the bed, even then our organs have to function. But why there is a need? Why can't they just stop, when we again wake up and again let them work? That's not going to happen at any cost. When it stops, something like we're kind of dead, so no one wants to die. So that's a system here designed in such a way that even when we are awake, when we are sleeping, we get disturbances and we get to have some of the dreams, and you wake up suddenly in the deep sleep, those things are happening. So that is what is something understood here. So organisms can be very different from each other. Of course, we have just seen in the previous slide, organisms are very different from each other. They are completely different, right? Even though we were trying to find a common point among all of them, but there is a whole lot of big difference we can see, right? So organisms can be very different from each other, but there are 7 things that all living organisms have to do. Those 7 things are nothing but the life process. Okay. Now I want to show you the life process in a sequence. The sequence, which is quite common, I don't know how many of you have come across, but you would like it to learn, because it's quite simple to understand the sequence, and the very same sequence we will be following for our detailed discussion. So, let us have a look, starting with this. These are known as life processes. First one is movement, okay. Second one is reproduction. Third is sensitivity, okay. Fourth is growth. Respiration, again R comes up here. Excretion, followed by nutrition. So, if you try to observe this word, can you make out what is this? Great, it is quite simple to understand, okay. So, let us see, it is nothing but, it is Mrs. Gren. Mrs. Gren, that is what you have to understand, that is the word, it forms like this, okay. So, if you observe carefully, we get to see MRS, Mrs. Gren. So, we are going to understand about this lady here, and she is having the movement, she can reproduce, sensitivity, growth, respiration, excretion, nutrition, all these life processes are performed by her. So, how it is happening, so we are going to understand them. So, that is starting with the movement till nutrition, right. So, these are all the life processes performed by you, me, any cat, bat, or any rat you take, any of the organism you think of, they all are performing these things in their own way. You may find some of the exceptions, but still there are common things. If the life has to continue, this is needed. For life's survival, this is needed. So, let us look here one by one. First thing is movement. What is that movement given here? What do you mean by movement? Okay. So, I see like whatever we have just said, and based on your understanding so far, you are saying the same thing. There is nothing but the movement which is happening. Like me, I am teaching you by moving my hands, I am moving my head here and there, my body is moving, that is what is movement, is one kind. Another movement what I can show you is by walking here. So, I am walking like this, again I come back here, I walk here like this, this is also a movement. So, movement is of different types, okay. So, if you look at a plant, you cannot say it is not moving, it is moving. Increasing its height, increasing the girth is movement. If you think of an animal like you and me, we move from place to place, that is also considered to be a movement. Now, this is something to do with understanding the movement. All living things move, it is quite simple to understand, right. So, all organisms move their body from big movements like a jump to a small movements like a wink. We blink our eyes, that is also a movement. You move your tongue like this, that is a movement. So, you see this, that is what we normally do, that is quite understandable here. What about this? This also gives us an understanding of the movement. You see here, so these birds are flying, okay, it is not visible, right, okay, I'd use this one. So, these birds are flying, so that is a movement here. So, they are flying, that is a movement, they are showing, that means they are moving from one place to another place. How about this showing a movement? It is also simple, right, because it is a plant. Just now I told you, when you see in plants, they can increase in their height is their movement, moving their organs is a movement, not because of the wind, but because of their growth, their bodily functions, the organs of these kinds of plants would move. So, that will also show movement. So, you understand both can be called as movement, but this is with displacement, that means you are changing your location. Here there is no change in the location. So, that is all about movement in very short. Okay. It is again a common process performed by most of the organisms, okay, almost all. Even if you look at the corals, some of you might be knowing, do you know corals? I will write on the screen here. For your understanding, corals are small microscopic organisms, yet they form the biggest structures on the planet. You see, like, Great Barrier Reef, we cannot find them, just looking at them by our naked eyes. We need at least a hand lens to observe them. Even the microscope would do good. So the Great Barrier Reef, what we can understand, it's a very big, calcium carbonate is there in that shell-like thing which is formed. It's a big stone-like thing. Actually, it is formed. Okay, it's a vast thing. So there you see the corals are living. You may not find them moving from one place to another place, but you will find them, they will be showing movement within themselves. They will be having tentacles, and when they move those tentacles, that is also considered to be movement. So even in animals, even in plants, they can show movement by standing wherever they are. Another example I would like to give is sponges. These are the name of the organisms. Hope you remember, because these were not new to you. Why I am saying they are not new to you? Because you might have come across these words in class 9th. So that's where you will understand. So this is what is in short about movement. So they obviously show us movement everywhere. Second one is reproduce or reproduction. Okay, it's again one of the important process. Why do you think, children, reproduction is one of the most important process? Can anyone drop in the chat box? Reproduction. Okay, I would like to write it again. So why is it so important? What is that so touching here? Okay. So yeah, it's quite simple what you're dropping here. It helps in growing the newer organisms. From the older organisms, new organisms are grown, correct. And okay, that's correct. We see a chick, we see ourselves, we see the calf around ourselves. Okay, that's a common thing what you see. So what is happening here is basically it is actually helpful in this is helping in continuing life on earth. So that continuity here, if you want life on earth, this is one of the most important life process that is to be conducted by the organisms. So you have to understand that. Hope you understood this. It's quite simple to understand. So that is the importance of the reproduction. So all things reproduce. Animals have babies, the smaller animals of their own kind, they grow, they form themselves. New plants grow from seeds. So that's how again simple, right? Seeds from taken from different plants, we can sow them and they can again form themselves. That's quite simple. So this is the best example, right? I was giving an example of a chick, you see that? So that's the stages of reproduction in a chick. If you look at, we get to have the egg, the first stage. Inside the egg, you see the development of the embryo takes place, and then this is the stages. There's a second stage, third stage, and the fourth stage. That's how it would look like, right? So that is for our understanding. You can see this is how it happens. Reproduction is a continuous process. So seeds, they all are seeds. What you can see on the screen here, they're actually seeds. So when you sow them, okay, they'll grow. The growth is common. So this is what you are looking at. It's a small garden, greenhouse where they're growing some of the plants of commercial importance. So that gives us an understanding that this is how it grows. Okay, fine. So next is, reproduction is a simple process what we think, but yet it is very complex depending upon the type of organisms what you're thinking of. Okay, so this is again the second life process which has to be done by an organism. Now the third one, sensitivity. What do you say about this life process, sensitivity? Think. So most of the things what you can make here from the learning objectives what I have shown you, right? Looking at the learning objectives you can make out something. So here all the living things are sensitive, so they are highly sensitive to their surroundings, they use their respective senses. You see some of the organisms like snake, if you think of, okay, or frog or a dog, how about birds, they all understand sound differently. Sound, for a snake, it uses its tongue to sense the sound. For a frog there lies a membrane more or less like that of a eardrum known as tympanum, okay. So for a frog I am going to tell you that it is having a membrane called tympanum, that helps it to form the structure, okay. So that is more important, that helps to understand the sound. The birds, how do they hear that? They do not have ears, but their sensory senses are different. So that is just one character I took, that is the sound. How about light? There are some organisms, when they live inside the caves for longer years, they do not have eyes at all, but still they are able to sense the light in their own way. So there are different ways. All animals can see, hear, taste, touch and smell. So they can sense all of these, is looking, seeing, hearing, taste, touch and smell. That is, there are nothing but five senses. Hearing, so first is seeing, looking at something. Hearing, taste, how you taste using your tongue. Touch, so these days these electronic gadgets, they too sense it, but they can't hear, see, this one I am speaking about. So that is a different thing here. Smell is something like most of the animals do. You do it, I do it, we have dogs doing it. So that is the thing we have to understand. So when you try to combine all of these, we can understand that they are changing themselves, okay. So these changes in the organisms is different, but every change leads to sense whatever is happening around themselves. So change in the temperature, change in the light, or change in the water content, change in the soil content, or any change in the height or something. So everything can be sensed by the organisms. The plants, they can sense. So this little girl is putting water to those pots with the plants. So by observing at the pots, she will make out that, okay, these plants need some water. So that also is all about sensing it. She sees at it and she will realize, okay, they haven't been watered, so she's trying to put some water. So this is something to do with sensing. So you get this. Penguins, they live in around -70 to -80 degrees Celsius surroundings. So when they sense it, it's very, very, very cold there. Now how do they do it? They huddle together. They will be standing all of them in a single group and as close as possible, so that they can share the heat among themselves, and that's how they will counter the effect of the surroundings. Look at the plant. So it's quite visible to us. The sun rays are falling on it, and it takes the light and it is sensing, it is growing like that. So everything has its own senses. For if you look here, I will draw a seed, okay. So if you observe this one carefully, this particular seed what I have just drawn, okay, this is a plumule, okay, and this is a radicle. Okay, now you have to understand that radicle would be the future root, okay. plumule would be future stem or also known as shoot. Now, can you expect the future shoot to go underground and the future root to come up? So, it is not possible. That means, when the seed is about to germinate, that is while seed germination, we will see that the specific root, the specific stem, it is already pre-programmed based on the environmental senses. Okay, it understands those sensories, the senses, okay, and then it gives out its own shoot and roots. So, they will always go up top. Even if you put the seed upside down, even though the shoot would always go upside and the root would always go inside the ground. So, how it is happening? It is happening by the senses, what it is able to perceive. So, that is how it is. Sensitivity is important. Next is growth. Okay, you see a growth, all living things grow. Okay, these days we say even non-living things are growing, but using just only this criteria we cannot say that they belong to the living category. So, it is not possible, right. So, you see young animals growing to adults, and we have plants, seedlings grown into mature plants, that is quite common. So, that is that kind of growth we see, young animals grow into adults, and this is what I was saying, the seed over here, it germinates, you see it is germinating, the shoot is always moving up, okay, and the roots always move down. That is a common thing what we see here, and in the matter of through time, what did I write? I am sorry. Okay. Okay, you see that through time these are the changes possible. This change is nothing but it is exhibiting the growth, that is what is given here. So, young plants, when you sow the seeds, they germinate and they form the saplings, and slowly they start growing up. This is how it occurs. So, through time the growth is also, it is a continuous process. Okay. Next is respiration. What do you know about respiration? Okay, I see two different types of answers here typed by you. Let me drop in here. One says the respiration is about exchange of gases, that is oxygen and carbon dioxide. Oxygen and carbon dioxide are exchanged. Okay. One say that it is the energy generation process. So, it is the energy generation process, that is what you say. Okay. Okay, fine. So, this is also happening, that oxygen is getting exchanged. Exchange of oxygen is also happening. So, that is also a part of respiration, that is correct. But mainly the respiration is something to do with generation of energy, it is a process. Can anyone drop me that particular chemical reaction which generates the respiratory energy, energy from the respiration? Guess? Okay, let us see here. So, it is quite simple. So, in the body we have oxygen because we get to have it by breathing, and you see that we use glucose, and that is the one which gives us energy. So, this one, ATP is the energy, that is adenosine triphosphate, the energy currency of this cell. You might have read in class 9th. So, it is a simple process occurring here. So, all living things would respire, but there are few which may not need oxygen, but still they respire. That's a guy over here trying to do that. So what you can understand here is it's not only about exchange of the gases, it's actually the generation of the energy by that particular reaction which I just shown you. So even plants, even the organisms in the aquatic system, they do respire. That means they need to take in the oxygen dissolved in water. Here they are taking the oxygen. So here also you see the plant would be taking in oxygen. Of course this is a picture that is shown us about the photosynthesis, but plants also take in oxygen, so that all day they they will be in the under the sun and trying to prepare their own food, that is starch. Okay, so ultimately that has to be converted into glucose, and the glucose combines with this oxygen, okay, to generate energy. Okay, so generation of energy is important. So this is oxygen. Dissolved oxygen is taken by this fish through the gills, what you can see, and later whatever food is available in its body, ultimately that has to convert into glucose that generates energy. So it's a combined process. Here it is shown about the exchange of the oxygen because respiration includes breathing. Okay, you may find it difficult to see that. I will be erasing that and writing again. Yeah. So respiration includes breathing. Okay, that's quite simple. So what you can make out here is breathing is of, again it's a combination, that is it's not that you don't know, but I am just writing it for you. So breathing includes one inhalation plus one exhalation. So respiration includes breathing, and breathing is one inhalation plus one exhalation. So all organisms respire. Okay, that's a common process. So excretion, it is one of the most important process wherein you see removal of the toxic substances from the body, or undigested substances. They are not poisonous, but they are to be removed from the body. So we need this process. All living organisms excrete, including human beings, monkeys, apes, orangutan, chimpanzees, gorilla, whatever you name it. They all look alike. We all are looking alike. We all are kind of same. Okay, we are similar in other words. Not only that, every other organism, even the microscopic organisms, they have to excrete. So they have to get rid of the waste. Let that be in the form of gas, water, solid. So even if the, okay, I'm sorry, something has gone wrong with me. So three states of matter basically we read, it is solid, liquid and gas. Waste is given out from the body in all the three states of matter. Okay. So also animals need to get rid of these waste products, that's a simple thing, and the images are self-explanatory. I don't think so I need to discuss that. So excretion is a common process, you see that done by every other organism to give out the waste into the environment, because if you try to keep that waste within oneself, okay, it deteriorates our body, it deteriorates our health, and ultimately it would end up causing problem to our mental strength. Okay, we won't be having that mental ability to cope up with that situation after a long course of time. So we don't need that waste in our body. So always one has to get rid of that waste from the body. So the last one what we have to understand is nutrition. So again this one is quite relevant. If you see here, it's very relevant. So you look here. So all living things need food for energy, of course. Now you might be wondering, when we were discussing about respiration, you said that, you might think this way, like you said that it is the respiration giving us energy. That's correct. So you might think that respiration is giving us energy, that's correct. But the thing is, In order to have that respiration reaction to occur, we need food, so which is converted into glucose, okay, and if it has to generate energy, it has to combine with oxygen, and that's the complete reaction happens. So this is the reaction which is actually respiration. So plants make their own food using their own energy. You know the process of sunlight. You know they combine the energy of light, convert into chemical energy, and that's how they proceed further in the process of photosynthesis. Right? What about us? Animals eat either plants or both. So they may eat plant, they may eat an animal, or they will eat both. Like humans. Humans basically we consume both plants and animals. We are omnivores. So they're like that. We have herbivores, carnivores, and omnivores. So it is completely based on the type of component eaten away by the organism. Food habit. In other words, food habits. Only plants, they only consume meat, and these guys consume both plants and the meat, flesh of other animals, right, like this. So look at this guy happily sitting in the river and trying to consume that fish. So nutrition is very much required. Nutrition is such a thing, it is required by almost all the organisms. It's like everyone needs nutrition, because they have to convert that complex food, whatever they are eating, like this. It's really complex food. It's not a simple thing what it is eating. Once it is eaten away, this will be converted into the most simplest form. That is the nutrients. All the nutrients are formed because of that food what it is consuming, and ultimately you will see that it is having the final most component for its energy generation, that is glucose. So that glucose will be combining with oxygen to generate energy. So nutrition is important. Hope you understood that. So today we just looked at the different life processes. There are 7 life processes. We looked at it, okay, and now we are trying to summarize what we have done in this particular session. So we looked at the life process and their significance in organisms. So why they are needed. So by now you might have clearly understood why we need them. What is the purpose of them in our body? Then we are looking at the process called movement, okay, which it is giving rise to. Moving from place to place and moving at the same place is different. So I am standing here, I am moving my hands, my speaking, my neck is moving, you know, I am trying to move my head. That is different from moving from this place to this place. So this is also different. So this accounts for the movement of an organism that can be static or dynamic. Reproduction. So important aspect of continuity of life on any organism, life of any organism. If there is life existed on this earth, it is because of this important process, that is reproduction. Then comes the concept of sensitivity, how we are sensing the environment. Through all our sense organs we are trying to sense the environment. That is what is done here, mentioned here as response to stimuli. So hope you understood that life process, that is sensitivity. Next comes up growth. It is a continuous act of change within an organism. So you know I'm quite older than you, I'm an adult, okay. Now what you can make out is I have a specific height. Now no more I can gain more height. It doesn't mean that I will be having no growth. It doesn't mean like that. I will be having growth within my body. You know, aging itself is a sign of growth. Next, we understood about respiration being the vital process for energy generation. So respiration is the vital process for energy generation. Finally, we looked at the removal of the waste from the body, toxic or non-toxic components from the body, that is excretion. So excrete the waste from the body. So we understood that. So we should not keep it in the body, so that would be harming our body. So hope you understood that. Following that, we learnt about nutrition, fulfilling the nutrient need of the body. So, these were the life processes what we have learned so far. Hope this session was fruitful. Now, today we have completed the life process introduction. In the upcoming sessions, we will be having a detailed understanding of the very same chapter. So, thank you, and thank you for showing your interest in Turito.